The following program, Know the Cause, is paid for by Mediatrician Incorporated.
Great lineup for you today. You've met Erin Porter before. She's out of Florida. She had the sinus problem. They cut her face open to do sinus surgery. She's back for an update toward the end of the show. Before her, however, a brand new symptom of systemic fungal infection. We know they cause cancer. We know they can hurt the liver and the kidneys. We know they suppress the immune system. New kid on the block. I'll teach you that. Carolyn is a woman who said no to recommendations by a doctor after he told her, you have cancer. How many people say, no, I'm not going to do what you told me? We'll meet Carolyn and her doctor in today's show. And then finally, an opening about fibromyalgia. What in the world is fibromyalgia? How many people have it? And what do you do about it? Watch.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
Have you ever heard the word fibromyalgia, muscle fiber pain that's moving around the body? Now it's in the left hip, now it's in the right side of the neck, etc. It's miserable. When I worked with Dr. Weekly 35 years ago out here in Dallas, we moved from Los Angeles when the kids were little, moved out to Dallas. The president of one of the chapters of fibromyalgia at one of the medical schools out here had come to see Dr. Weekly, and Dr. Weekly says, I really don't know what this is. What do we do about it? And I said, could you do me a favor? Could we just for a week prescribe off-label diflucan and nystatin? Nystatin is a gut antifungal. Diflucan is a bloodstream antifungal, and I'll put her on the Kaufman diet. Let's see how we do. 2 weeks later, this was a new woman. I got to lecture at the medical school. Everything was good. Let's talk about fibromyalgia. First, what is it, so you know if you may have it? Fibromyalgia is a disorder characterized by widespread musculoskeletal pain accompanied by fatigue, sleep problems, memory problems, and mood issues. Symptoms often begin after an event, and here you have my input, such as physical trauma, surgery, antibiotics, infection, antibiotics, or significant psychological stress. In other cases, symptoms gradually accumulate, and we don't know why. Women are more likely to develop it. Many people who have fibromyalgia also have tension headaches, temporomandibular joint disease, irritable bowel, anxiety, and depression. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I mean, so many people suffer from this. In 2 weeks, we saw improvement in this young woman, and it was so exciting. Look at the antifungal approach, okay? Why do I have fibromyalgia? Could fungus be involved in this condition? Pain isn't uncommon in patients with fungal diseases, so says the Center for Disease Control. Mycotic arthritis exists. How about mycotic fibromyalgia? Meaning that a fungal infection might be the cause of it. Sometimes fungi isolated in our cereal, breads, pastas, grain supply make poisonous byproducts called mycotoxins, and we eat them. Might these mycotoxins poison human nerves? I've taught this now for so many years, and if I didn't have that clinical experience, once she got better, all these patients started to come to Dr. Weekly's office, and I would end up seeing them. The majority of them, folks, within 2 weeks. I don't believe in long-term medication. I believe in experimenting. Is your problem fungus? Is this fibromyalgia to which you're seeing neurologist after neurologist, is it due to fungus? For 2 weeks, let's try a couple of meds. One's a tummy antifungal, one's a bloodstream antifungal, and change your diet. Don't eat grains, don't eat sugars, etc. Plenty of foods left. We were so rewarded during that time. Yes, nerves can be affected since some mycotoxins are neurotoxic. We've known since 1945 that penicillin is neurotoxic. Have you taken a lot of antibiotics? The exact mechanism of neurotoxicity isn't well understood. Limb weakness along with low muscle tone also been noted to be in effect. The more I read in the scientific literature, the more it confirmed that the work we were doing with all of these patients really paid off. But you have to remember, somebody must seed that study. If that young woman hadn't come to Dr. Weekly, who was a dermatologist, he doesn't take care of nerves and tummy problems and so forth, we may never know this. Okay, is fibromyalgia in fact a disease called myositis? It's a rare disease in which the muscle fibers and skin are inflamed and damaged, resulting in muscle weakness. Infectious myositis may also be caused by broad range of bacteria, fungal, parasitic, and viral agents. There's that word fungus. This sounds exactly like fibromyalgia. Myositis, doctors see that, neurologists see that all the time. Have we renamed myositis to become fibromyalgia, muscle fibers triggering, okay? Antibiotic-induced, this needs to be addressed. Antibiotic-induced muscle problems. Recall that antibiotics are fungal mycotoxins. In this paper, the British Medical Journal in 2015, they said, we present a case series of 4 previously healthy employed adults without significant prior medical history, each of whom had symptoms develop while on Cipro, Levaquid, Avelox. These are fluoroquinolone antibiotics, with progression that continued following discontinuation, evolving to severe, disabling, multi-symptom profile, variably involving tendinopathy, muscle weakness, peripheral neuropathy, autonomic dysfunction, sleep disorders, cognitive dysfunction, and psychiatric disturbances. 4 healthy people who were well. Then all of a sudden they went on this class of antibiotics. We've probably all been on one or more of those. And it forever, even when they stopped the antibiotics, continued degrading their nerves. Our doctors don't know this. How I wish they did. What would I do? Number 1, I'd ask my doctor for a 2-week trial of the antifungal drug Sporanox. That's one we used also. This helps rid fungal infections of the blood and joints inside the body. If the doctor will not prescribe Sporanox, ask him if you can take caprylic acid supplements a couple times a day. While on Sporanox, I'd use the Kaufman 1 diet for a couple of weeks. I'd prompt my immune system with NSC beta-glucan and Dr. Ohhira's probiotics every day. Psyllium binds these fungal poisons in the tummy, so before going to bed each night, I'd take that, and then I'd drink a lot of water. Water encourages urination. Urination helps detox poisons, chemicals, and mycotoxins out of the body. Just my take, but that's what I would do. I hope that helps.
How is it that that abuse gets encoded into our organs, into our brain? It does. It actually rewires the brain. And it's just like we have a silent magnet within us that says, I'm messed up, pick me. I'm messed up, pick me. Broken people.
Real clinical situations. I went through a lot of those when I was in clinical nutrition. Back in the 1970s, 1980s, met a good friend out here in our little town east of Dallas. His name is Dr. John Ganino. He joins us right now with a most wonderful patient by the name of Carolyn I've had the pleasure of meeting. Thank you both for coming in and sitting down with us. You met Dr. Ganino. How did you meet Dr. Ganino?
I was watching your program one day and you were interviewing Dr. Ganino. I immediately looked him up and called him and began to see him and get all of his wonderful skills towards holistic healing. It's been life-saving for me.
It really has for many people.
Yes.
I mean, I get to talk with him all the time on the phone. Yep. The results are amazing. What happened to your health and why did you see Dr. Ganino?
Well, I was diagnosed with the C word, the big dreadful C word, cancer back in June of 2006 and had the left breast removed that same time. And the doctors wanted me to take hormone blockers, and I'm thinking, well, I've never taken hormones. Why should I take hormones blockers? So I refused to do that and just did it all holistically. I threw out thousands of dollars worth of cosmetic skincare products, got rid of the sculptured nails, which have formaldehyde, and women are better off to smoke and drink and do everything terrible than to have sculptured nails.
And I want to talk to the stress that may have led up to this, but first let me ask you, did you do radiation or chemotherapy? I
did nothing.
Did they try to talk you into that after the breast was removed?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did, but I just said no.
You're strong.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Amazingly strong. Tell me about, we talked in the green room while this doctor was going through a lot of makeup.
For sure. Much needed makeup, yeah.
we were talking about the stress.
Yeah. And
Dr. Ganino said, you know, I see this so often, and I think it's a precursor to people getting very sick. Teach us.
Absolutely. I'm a third generation survivor overcomer, I should say. I'm not a survivor, I'm an overcomer of childhood domestic violence and later adult abuse. My grandmother married an abuser, my mother married an abuser, and I married an abuser. How is it that that abuse gets encoded into our organs, into our brain? It does. It actually rewires the brain. And it's just like we have a silent magnet within us that says, I'm messed up, pick me. I'm messed up, pick me. Broken people seek after other broken people. When you become whole, you seek wholeness, right?
Carolyn, one day he told
So
me
good.
he sees so much of this in his practice, and he said, really, there's one answer for it. God.
You can't make it without God.
Him praying with patients, I get tearful sometimes when I go over there and see him. I mean, it's really, really important. So, what did you learn? I know what Carolyn learned from you. As the therapist, what did you learn from Carolyn?
Well, again, I remember, of course, Doug, you and I go back 24 years. My first trainer in integrative medicine was Dr. Majid Ali. And he said, your patients will be your best teachers. You will learn from experience much more than you will learn from a chalkboard in a classroom. And that has really so held so much truth over the years. And in every successful case, I learned something from and build on. And the next thing you know, you've got a Carolyn or a Jana or a Rod or a Diane or a Revis, these people that, people can't explain. Well, it is at a different vibrational level. The level of reason says this can only happen, and the level of the Holy Spirit is a whole different vibrational plane by which the impossible is witnessed, and it's just been a kick, man.
Do you think, Dr. Ganino, elevated cortisol levels, stress, could have developed a tumor formation?
Absolutely. We believe that, cancer really is an acidic situation, so the big players are fungus, which creates an acid pH, chemicals, which we've talked about, and adrenaline. This is what killed my own father at 66 from prostate cancer. Caffeine, nicotine, sugar, Claritin D, Zyrtec D, anything with a D in it, Ritalin, Adderall. Anything that increases adrenaline oxidizes the cell and pushes it towards cancer. Prayer, meditation, Tai Chi, yoga. All things that are adrenaline downregulating will extend your life. Anything that increases adrenaline will shorten your life.
Were antifungals, I know she had some fungal conditions also, were antifungals used in her case?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fungus is ubiquitous. Genesis 6:3 predicts a 120-year life. I've actually seen 2 ladies that have lived that long, so that's the setup. Antibiotic, steroid, birth control pill, living or flying at altitude, eating sugar, these are your fungus producers. And most people get exposed to that stuff. And of course, in a regular doctor's office, that's the answer for most presentations. Are they going out with antibiotics or steroids or birth control pills? And all of those things make fungus. Fungus makes you more acid. Cancer grows good in acid.
We've seen so many of your patients here on Know the Cause. Thank you for bringing them in.
Sure.
Carolyn, I don't know if you know, but there are people watching this right now who last night cried themselves to sleep. Oh no, I have, and you guys fill in the blank. Arthritis, you fill in the blank. To hear your testimonial has done a lot of hearts, a lot of good. So thank you for coming in and being so brave. And congratulations to you both.
Thank you so much.
Don't go away, I'll be right back with more. As I put this segment together, I had to snicker a little bit. When I first started on television 24 years ago, and I put this graphic up, take a look at this. Symptoms of fungal infection emerge. I knew, number one, mutagenic, changes genetic material. That's what these fungal mycotoxins do. I knew about tremors. I knew about them being cancerous. I knew about them changing the genes. But look at all this, folks. Teratogenic, neurotoxic, nephrotoxic, liver toxic, blood toxic, heart toxic, lymph system toxic, skin toxic, immunosuppressive, and they're endocrine disruptors. These are some of the things that mycotoxins are known to do to we humans or animals upon experimenting. And yet how I wish doctors knew this. I'm the only guy that has that graphic, but today I'm adding to it. Because a new headline came out in the archives of toxicology. Look at this. Mycotoxins and cellular senescence, the impact of oxidative stress, hypoxia, and immunosuppression. Let's go through each one of those and have you better understand this in the next 5 minutes. Mycotoxins and cellular senescence. So I highlight that and what is that? Cellular senescence means the process of cell aging. It's associated with cellular deterioration. As aging progresses, cells no longer divide. Now you know what that is. Okay, let's go to the next, and I highlighted it. Mycotoxins and cellular senescence, the impact of, let's go to number one, oxidative stress. What's that? MedicineNet says it occurs when there is an imbalance between free radicals and the antioxidants in your body. Medical News Today defines free radicals as unstable atoms that can damage our cells, causing illness and aging. And Harvard defines the term antioxidant as a general term for any compound that can counteract unstable molecules called free radicals. Listen, I think this is all about rusting and mold. They don't. We may differ on that, but in the interest of time, I'll keep going. Here's that same headline, mycotoxins, and now we go down to immunosuppression. Anything known to reduce or impair immune function, or immune system function, is said to cause immunosuppression. We knew that, right? And mycotoxins, the gross majority of them do. And there are thousands of these things. They say they've identified 400 to 1,000. I think we're on the road to finding many more of them. So that's what immunosuppressants is. But there's a new kid on the block, isn't there? As you read that headline. Here's the headline. Mycotoxins and cellular senescence, the impact of, we've already discussed oxidative stress, we've already discussed immunosuppression. Look at the word hypoxia. It's fascinating, folks. Go back with me to the year 2020. People got sick with COVID. They ended up in hospitals. So many died. It's such an unfortunate disease. The one thing we knew was they were hypoxic. Their oxygen level, that little digital thing you put on your finger, right, called an oximeter, would read out 92 or 89, way down oxygen level. Okay, let's talk about this. Hypoxia is defined as a deficiency in the amount of oxygen reaching our body tissues. So now we learn that fungal mycotoxins can cause hypoxia. MedicineNet said that, do you have headaches, coughing, wheezing, confusion, more than associated? These are associated with low tissue levels of oxygen. Many possible causes of hypoxia, environmental conditions like mold, high altitudes, lung disease, and the list is almost endless here. Hypoxia. So we've added a new kid to the block, haven't we? And here's the way this reads now. Every year or two, I update this. Again, I'm the only one with this graphic. I use it when I used to tour and teach doctors. You see, the only difference is the one at the bottom, hypoxia, low oxygen tissues in the body. Fungus. Yeah, but Doug, how am I being exposed to fungus? As we age, our white blood cell count waxes and wanes, and we become more vulnerable to bacterial infections or, penicillium or aspergillus in the ducting system in our bathrooms, if our homes ever leaked, etc. But most of the times, folks, I think instead of inhaling it, we eat them. If we're eating the standard American diet, what's the acronym? SAD. If we're eating the standard American diet of cereal and pasta and breads, we're getting mycotoxins in our regular diet. Look to a diet more that is protein-based or good fats, olive oils, things of that sort, than the standard American diet. And I think many of you will notice if you suffer from lightheadedness and your doctor says your oxygen is a little low, we have a brand new advertiser here, General Bash, and he has a product called O2 Boost, 66.com. Look it up, and I hope this helps. So I want to pose a question to all of you watching right now. Do you think it's possible to eat, possible for me, eat, pray, and get well? My guest today is Erin Porter. She wrote a book called Eat, Pray, and Get Well. I might say a favored guest. People love when you're on. I actually get calls from friends saying, when's Erin going to be back on? So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in. Erin, for those who don't know, take us through a synopsis of your journey, starting when you were a little girl to right now.
Well, you know my story well, but when I was about 6, we moved out of an apartment in the Bronx and to a home in upstate New York, and I immediately got sick. Pretty severe asthma, allergies, and the doctors would just say it's the trees. They're different up here in upstate New York than in the Bronx. So I kind of stayed at that kind of a sickly kid until I was 18. I got a job in Manhattan, moved, got a very cheap apartment, the only
In
thing
New
I
York,
can
right?
afford yet. And within a month, I had my first sinus infection and started antibiotics. And a couple months later, the sinus infection is still there, but now I have heart arrhythmias. Now I have this feeling of fatigue. I'm starting to get symptoms from head to toe, and I would say 15, 20 years later, I'm still taking those antibiotics for my sinus infection. And now we're adding chronic Epstein-Barr and all kinds of benign heart arrhythmias, but that was probably the scariest symptom
Do you
I
know,
had.
the longer I work in this field, Erin, the more I realize the praying is essential, because
Yep.
people who have been exposed to the mold you were back then generally aren't here, and they don't die of a mycotoxicoses. They don't die of a fungal condition. Their death certificate says asthma
Right.
or chronic sinusitis or cancer. But as you know, your and my work together in reading your book really has proven that fungus goes far beyond the sinuses or the skin, little ringworm. It really, it can be local, but it's oftentimes systemic. Is that what you and the doctors, how many doctors have you seen?
Oh boy, at least 60 specialists. And we're talking about not knowing my cause for a good 20 to 25 years. So I thought all of these separate issues, and from the antibiotics, decades, I couldn't keep any food down. I told you about the sores, the pain that from the acid coming up. So I had a fantastic ear, nose, and throat finally look at my scan, and he said, that's one of the most severe fungal infections I've ever seen in my practice.
And yet other doctors have looked at that and said, yeah, here's an antibiotic.
Here's some more antibiotics. I even had my first 2 sinus surgeries, they cultured, and they said it came back inconclusive. So it was actually my 4th surgery, but this guy, before I was even under, he said severe fungal infection. That's when I got this ray of hope. Oh, okay, what, first gross, right? Fungal
Right.
infection in my sinuses. But I thought back to that apartment almost instantly, the mold that I could see, that I could smell, and I kind of knew instinctively that that's where I got it.
Erin, you talk about, a bunch of doctors, hundreds of antibiotics, surgeries. Do you feel this sinus problem, and I know it proliferated all over your body, but do you feel that this problem has been cured?
I don't know if it'll ever be cured. So I have the tools now to keep it under control. And recently I was hit again from being exposed to some mold. But now I know how to take care of it. I know what doctor to go to who knows how to remove it correctly. And I have steps. I know what to, silver and oxygen. I'm actually even using oxygen now. That's something Dr. Dennis says is wonderful, because when you have mycotoxins that hit the bloodstream, of course the capillaries and the tissues just sort of close off, and which is good because no more mycotoxins are getting in, but bad because you're not detoxing. So the point of the oxygen is just open up those capillaries so you can actually get those antifungals to the tissues to get rid of it.
He is so smart, Dr. Don
He
Dennis in
is
Atlanta. I love
brilliant.
that guy. Final question, quick, in 15 seconds. Does sugar in your diet tend to activate this mold again?
Oh, it does.
Same.
It does. I can tell the very next day I'll start sniffling, and I have to start getting out my sprays and trying to control it. Absolutely.
Eat, pray, and get well. Highly recommended, folks. I think you will grow and learn from what she has been through. Erin, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having
Really
me.
good to see you again.
Thank you. You too.
Isn't that powerful when you get those 2 testimonials back to back? Thank you, Dr. Ganino and Carolyn, for giving that testimonial. You have cancer. I don't want to do that. Can we try a different way? Thank you also, Erin Porter. Look at her 25 years ago and today, whole world of difference. She is now helping so many people. Folks, fibromyalgia, how many people have it? A lot. What do they do about it? They go on medications. Is that necessary, especially if it has a microbial basis, fungal, bacteria, etc.? Thank you for joining us today. God bless you. Tell a friend to know the cause.
preceding program, Know the Cause, was paid for by Mediatrition Incorporated.